Let me tell you a story about two friends named Marcus and David. They grew up on the same street. They went to the same school. They got jobs at the same company. They even earned the same salary. $50,000 a year. But 5 years later, their lives looked completely different. Marcus was stressed all the time. He could not sleep at night. Every time his phone buzzed, his heart would beat faster. He was scared it might be his bank telling him his account was empty. When his friends asked him to go out for dinner, he would make excuses. He would say he was busy, but the truth was simple. He could not afford a $20 meal. David was different. He was calm. He was happy. When his car broke down one morning, he did not panic. He called a mechanic, paid the bill, and moved on with his day. When his company announced they might fire some workers, David did not lose sleep. He knew he would be okay. Same job, same salary, same city. Two completely different lives. What was the difference between Marcus and David? David had $10,000 saved in his bank account. Marcus had almost nothing. Now, you might be thinking, that is it. Just $10,000. Yes, just $10,000. And today, I am going to show you why this simple number can completely change how you live, how you think, and how you feel about your future. I have spent years studying why some people feel peaceful about money, while others feel scared all the time. If you want to understand how money really affects your brain and your life, stay with me until the end of this video. And if this helps you, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Let me paint a picture of what life looks like when you have no savings. Imagine a woman named Rosa. Rosa works hard. She wakes up early. She goes to her job, does everything right. But at the end of every month, her bank account is almost empty. Rosa lives in constant fear. When she goes to buy groceries, she does math in her head. If I buy this chicken, can I still pay for electricity? When her daughter asks for new shoes for school, Rosa feels her stomach hurt. She wants to say yes, but she knows the truth. New shoes might mean no dinner next week. This is what experts call living paycheck to paycheck, and it is not just about money. It is about what this does to your mind. In his famous book, The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel writes something powerful. He says that money is not really about math. It is about behavior. It is about how you feel. And when you have no savings, you feel scared all the time. Rosa cannot think about the future. She cannot dream about starting a business. She cannot imagine taking a vacation. All her mental energy goes to one question. How will I survive this month? This is called scarcity mindset, and it is like a trap that keeps people stuck. Sindhil Mullainathan, a professor at Harvard, wrote a book called Scarcity. In this book, explains something surprising. When people are worried about money, they actually become worse at making decisions. The stress takes up space in their brain. It is like trying to run a computer with too many programs open. Everything slows down. Rosa is smart. Rosa works hard. But her brain is so full of money worries that she cannot think clearly about anything else. Now, let us go back to David. Remember him? The friend with $10,000 saved? David is not rich. He does not drive a fancy car. He does not live in a big house. But he has something Rosa does not have. He has peace. So why is $10,000 so special? Why not $5,000? Why not $50,000? Let me explain with a simple idea. Think about all the bad things that could happen to you tomorrow. Your car could break. Your phone could stop working. You might get sick and need to see a doctor. You might lose your job. Now, here is the interesting part. Most of these problems cost less than $10,000 to fix. A car repair, usually between $500 and $3,000. A medical emergency. Without insurance, most basic treatments cost between $1,000 and $5,000. Lost your job? $10,000 can pay your rent and food for 3 to 6 months while you find a new one. This means that $10,000 is like a shield. It protects you from almost every common disaster that can happen in normal life. George Clason wrote a very old, but very wise book called The Richest Man in Babylon. In this book, he talks about building what he calls a wall of protection. This wall is your savings. And he says the first job of every person is to build this wall before doing anything else with their money. $10,000 is your wall. But here is something even more interesting. The real power of this money is not in spending it. The real power is in knowing it is there. Let me introduce you to another person. His name is James. James used to be like Rosa. He lived with constant money stress. Every night he would lie in bed and worry. What if my boss fires me tomorrow? What if my rent goes up? What if my mother gets sick? Then James read a book that changed his life. It was called Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin. In this book, Vicki explains that money is not just paper or numbers. Money represents your life energy. Every dollar you earn costs you time from your life. James started thinking differently. He began saving small amounts. $50 one month, $100 the next month. It was slow, it was hard, but he kept going. After 2 years, James looked at his bank account and saw $10,000, and something strange happened. James started sleeping better. His shoulders relaxed. He stopped snapping at his wife when she asked simple questions. He became more patient with his children. This was not imagination. This was science. When you are stressed about money, your body makes a chemical called cortisol. This is the stress hormone. Cortisol makes your heart beat fast. It makes you feel nervous. It keeps you awake at night. But when you have money saved, your brain feels safe. It makes less cortisol. You feel calm. James did not become a different person. His personality did not change. But his body chemistry changed. And that changed everything. Here is another thing that happened to James. He started making better decisions. Remember what I said about Rosa? Her brain was too full of money worries to think clearly. James was the opposite now. With his money worries gone, he had space in his brain to think about bigger things. He noticed that his phone bill was too high. He called the company and asked for a better price. They gave him a discount. He noticed that his car insurance was expensive. He spent one afternoon looking at other options. He found a company that charged less. These small changes saved him hundreds of dollars every year. But he never would have noticed them before. His brain was too busy worrying about survival. This is what Ramit Sethi talks about in his book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Ramit says that when you get your basic finances right, you free up mental energy to make your life even better. It creates what he calls a positive spiral. Good decisions lead to more good decisions. Let me tell you about a woman named Priya. Priya worked at a marketing company. She was good at her job, very good, but she was scared to ask for more money. Every year, when it was time to talk about salary, she would accept whatever her boss offered. Why? Because Priya had no savings. She could not afford to make her boss angry. What if he fired her? She would have nothing. Then Priya spent 18 months building her savings. Slowly, she reached $10,000. The next time salary talks came around, something was different. Priya walked into her boss's office with her shoulders back. She asked for a 15% raise. Her boss looked surprised. He said he would think about it. The old Priya would have panicked. She would have said, "Never mind, I am sorry. Please do not fire me." But the new Priya just nodded and said, "Take your time. Let me know what you decide." She got a 10% raise, not 15%, but still more money than she ever got before. What changed? Priya was not smarter. She was not more skilled. But she was no longer desperate, and people can feel desperation. Bosses, customers, business partners, they can all tell when you need something badly. And they offer you less because of it. Thomas Stanley studied millionaires for years. He wrote a book called The Millionaire Next Door. In this book, he found something surprising. Most millionaires do not look rich. They drive normal cars. They live in normal houses. But they have money saved. And this money gives them power. The power to say no. The power to wait for better deals. The power to walk away. Priya learned this lesson with just $10,000. She did not need millions. She just needed enough to not feel desperate. Now, let me talk about something very important. Something most money experts forget to mention. Saving $10,000 does not just change your bank account. It changes who you are. Let me explain with a story about a man named Omar. Omar tried to save money many times. He would get excited about a new budget. He would cut all his expenses. He would eat rice and beans for every meal. He would cancel Netflix. He would stop buying coffee. This would last about 3 weeks. Then Omar would get tired. He would miss his old life. He would start spending again. And his savings would disappear. This happened again and again. Omar felt like a failure. Then Omar read a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. In this book, James Clear explains that lasting change is not about willpower. It is about identity. Omar was trying to change his behavior, but he was not changing how he saw himself. Deep down, Omar still thought of himself as someone who was bad with money, someone who could never save, someone who would always be broke. So even when he saved money, his mind found ways to sabotage him. He would make excuses to spend. He would tell himself he deserved treats. He would go back to his old ways. But what if Omar changed his identity first? What if instead of saying I am trying to save money, Omar said, I am a person who saves money? This sounds like a small difference, but it is huge. When you see yourself as a saver, every decision becomes easier. You do not have to use willpower every time you see something you want to buy. You just think, I am a saver. Savers do not buy things they do not need. Omar tried this approach. He started calling himself a saver. He put a note on his wallet that said, I am building my future. Slowly, his behavior changed. Not because he was forcing himself, but because he was becoming a different person. After 18 months, Omar had $10,000 saved. But more importantly, he had become someone new. Someone who trusted himself with money. Someone who knew he could achieve financial goals. This identity will stay with Omar forever. Even if he spends some of his savings on an emergency, he knows he can build it back. Because he is a saver now. That is who he is. Okay. I have talked a lot about why $10,000 matters. Now let me talk about how to actually save this money. First, let me be honest with you. If you are making minimum wage and barely covering your rent, saving $10,000 will be very hard. I am not going to pretend that money problems are only about mindset. Sometimes, the math just does not work. But for many people, the problem is not income. The problem is awareness. Let me introduce you to one more person. Her name is Chen. Chen made $45,000 a year. She was always broke. She could not understand why. She was not buying expensive things. She was not going on vacations. Where was her money going? One day, Chen did something simple. She wrote down every single thing she bought for 1 month. Every coffee, every snack, every Uber ride, every subscription. At the end of the month, Chen was shocked. She spent over $200 on coffee and small snacks. She spent $150 on subscriptions she never used. A gym she never visited. Streaming services she forgot about. Apps that charged her every month. She spent almost $300 on food delivery because she was too tired to cook. That is $650 every month. Almost $8,000 every year. Chen did not need to earn more money. She needed to see where her money was going. In his book, The Automatic Millionaire, David Batch calls this the latte factor. He says most people waste small amounts of money every day without realizing it. And these small amounts add up to big numbers. Chen did not stop enjoying her life. She still bought coffee sometimes. She still ordered food delivery sometimes. But she became aware, and awareness changed her behavior. She started making coffee at home most days. She canceled subscriptions she did not use. She cooked more meals herself. Within 1 year, Chen had saved over $6,000. Within 2 years, she had her $10,000. Here is my simple advice for you. Step 1. Track every dollar you spend for 1 month. Write it down. Use an app. Whatever works for you. Just see where your money goes. Step 2. Find 3 things you can reduce, not eliminate. Reduce. Maybe you eat out 10 times a month. Can you make it 6 times? Maybe you have 5 streaming services. Can you keep 2? Step 3. Set up automatic savings. Every time you get paid, have your bank automatically move some money to a savings account. Even if it is just $50. Make it automatic so you do not have to think about it. Step 4. Celebrate small wins. Every time you reach a new $1,000, do something nice for yourself. Not something expensive, just something that makes you happy. This keeps you motivated. Step 5. Be patient. This will take time. Maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. That is okay. You are not just saving money, you are becoming a new person. That takes time. Let me end with something beautiful. Remember Marcus and David from the beginning of our story? The 2 friends with the same job and same salary, but very different lives. I want to tell you what happened to them 5 years later. Marcus eventually hit rock bottom. His car broke down, and he could not fix it. He lost his job because he could not get to work. He had to move back in with his parents. It was embarrassing and painful, but sometimes hitting bottom is what we need to change. Marcus started reading books about money. He read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This book taught him that the poor and middle class work for money, but the rich make money work for them. He read The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. This book taught him that investing is not as complicated as people think. He started from zero. He saved his first $1,000, then his second, then his third. 3 years after hitting bottom, Marcus had his $10,000. But more importantly, he had something he never had before. He had hope. David continued on his path. His $10,000 grew to $20,000. Then $50,000. He started investing. He started a small side business. Today, David is not worried about retirement. He knows he will be okay. Not because he got lucky, but because he built his wall of protection and kept building from there. Here is what I want you to understand. $10,000 is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the foundation that everything else is built on. Once you have this foundation, you can start thinking about investing. You can think about retirement accounts. You can think about building wealth. But without this foundation, you are always one emergency away from disaster. You cannot build a house on unstable ground. Let me leave you with a final thought. Right now, wherever you are in your financial journey, you have the power to change your future. Maybe you have nothing saved. That is okay. Start today, even if it is just $10. Maybe you have a few thousand saved. Keep going.